Hello everyone, hope you are doing great. In this tutorial we're going to learn how we can use event listeners in JavaScript. So this is my index.html file. I have three divs nested inside each other's, right? This is my JavaScript file, and as you can see at the top I've already selected those three divs so you can add event listeners on them, right? So let's add an event listener on the child. So child add event listener, and then I have to pass in the event type, right? There are plenty of event, right? In our case, we're all going to work with the collect event. So collect, and then I have to pass in a callback function, right? And I'm just gonna come here and console log hi, all right? Or child, let's console log child, right? So if I click on the grandparent, nothing happens. If I click on the parent, nothing happens. But if I click on the child, as you can see, child was logged to the console, which means the event was successfully added to this div, all right? So if I click again, as you can see, child was logged again, right? So this is how we can add event listeners, all right? Also, we can remove them, all right? So instead of add, I'm just going to use remove. But as you can see, this won't work, right? As you can see, we still log child to the console. It's because when we're trying to remove an event listener, this function has to be equal to this function over here, which is not the case. It might seem like they're equal because they execute the same code, but they're not. So that's why I have to come here and just define a function, right? It's called a collect function, all right? And I'm just going to come here and just copy this and assign it to it, and I'm going to pass it right in here, all right? So let me pass it. Collect function on there, and in here again, collect function. Now if I save the file and I click on the child, as you can see, nothing happens because the event was successfully removed. So this is how you remove an event listener, all right? Now let's go back, and we have to discuss like two topics, all right? So the topic that I'm going to discuss now is the bubbling and the capturing, all right? So how does that work? All right, I have here an image. So this is our document, right? We have HTML and then the body and then those three divs, all right, nested inside each other, all right? So now when I click on, let's say the child, right? This is the target. So the event starts from the top, all right, from the document, and it travels through the DOM tree till it arrives to the target, all right? And then from the target, it bubbles up again till it arrives to the document, right? So this one on the left is called the capturing phase, and this one on the right is called the bubbling phase, all right? So our events are by default in the bubbling phase, all right? But we could also change it, so from the bubbling phase to the capturing phase. So now let's do something so you could understand more, right? So instead of the child, I'm going to add an event listener on the parent, all right? So parent, add event listener, and here I'm just going to console log parent instead of child. So as you can see, if I click on parent, you see parent was logged to the console. But if I click on the child, see what happens. Child and then parent was logged to the console. So why is that? So if I come back here, all right, and as I said, those events are both in the bubbling phase, all right? Which means when I click on the child, the events start off from the document and it goes down and it checks if there are any events in the capturing phase to be handled. And since there are any, right, nothing will be handled in here. So we're gonna handle the event of the child. So that's why the child was logged to the console. And then the event is going to bubble up to the document, right? And because we have the parent is in the bubbling phase, its event will be handled. That's why the parent was logged into the console. These other grandparent body HTML document, they have no events. That's why nothing was logged to the console, all right? So now I'm going to change, let's say, instead of handling the child event first and then the parent, I want to handle the parent first and then the child, which means I want to have the event in the capturing phase, not the bubbling. Because if I have the event in the bubbling phase, as you can see, the child, right, his event is getting executed first, and only then it goes to the parent, right? But if I have it in the capturing phase, the event, as we said, it will start off from the document and it will still go down so it arrives at the child. And because the parent is before the child, all right, as you can see, its event will be handled first. So how can we do that? So I just come here in the parent, and I'm going to pass a third argument, which is an object with capture property, and then we're going to set it to true. So this one is going to put the event of the parent in the capturing phase. So if I go back here, right, and I click on the child, as you can see, the parent's event was handled before the child's. All right. So that's it about event, the capturing and the bubbling events. Now let's discuss another topic, which is called the event delegation. All right. So let's say I wanted to select all the divs, right, and add event listener to each one of them. All right. So for each div, right, I am going to add an event listener. All right. So add event listener. It's going to be click, and once the event listener is clicked, I want to log hi to the console. Right. So for all the divs, right, I'm adding an event listener, and on the click, I want to log hi to the console. So if I click on this, as you can see, hi was locked. If I click on this, hi was locked. If I click on the child, hi was locked because they're all divs. If I click outside, nothing was being locked. All right. Now let's see something interesting. Let's say I wanted to create another div, right? And I wanted to add it into the body, right? So before we add it, I actually want to add some text to it. So text content equal new div. I have a full course. If you don't know, guys, how we could manipulate the DOM, right? I'll link it in the description. To make sure to check it out, right? So here I'm just going to add style. Say I'm gonna set a fixed width, alright? So 50 pixel maybe, and a fixed height of 50 pixel, and then a background color, alright, of let's use let's see pink, alright. Now nothing happens because I haven't added the div into the body right yet, right? So document that body append child div. Now if I save, as you can see, this is our new div. But what do you think if I click on this div? Do you think we are going to print out hi or no? So let's see. So when I click, nothing gets print out. All right. Why is that? It's because this div was added after we got all the divs from our index.html. So in here, the only divs that were available are these three, right? This is why when we click on this one, there's no events on it, all right? So how could we solve this problem? So I could just come here and remove this, and I'm going to add an event listener on the document, right? It's going to be a click event, and in here I'm going to pass in a callback function. I'm going to log hi, and let's see what's going to happen now. If I click, as you can see, it is actually working because I'm not adding the event listener on the divs. I'm adding it on the document itself, all right? So if I click on any div, hi will be logged into the console, right? So now we still have a little problem, which is if I click outside, so if I click on the body, if I have like a p tag or like a an h1 or something, hi will be still logged to the console. So how could we solve it? So I'm gonna come here and use the event.target, and I want to see if it matches div. So only when it's a div. So if it's a div, only then console log this message. All right. So now if I click on the body side, nothing happens. But if I click on a div, as you can see, hi is being logged to the console. All right. So that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you in the next one.